Matthew, I can imagine people saying, she's called my dog a monster. I don't mean it like that, but I mean, they can be quite monstrous, can't they, if they want to be?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a bit, you know, dogs can be very severe, not just XL bullies. You know, we can see attacks from all sorts of breeds. So I think a bit of responsibility even more responsibility from dog owners, because there are some bad apples in there amongst all the good ones.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually quite frightened of dogs, and I do understand what you're saying about bad owners, etc., but, you know, dogs do turn. They turn for lots of reasons, and it's not necessarily their fault. I mean, you can look at these evil-looking dogs, the XL bullies. They have been bred specifically not just to be big and to be muscly and the jaw and all of that, but to be slightly mentally unhinged. I don't know if they've done that by incestuous breeding or whatever, but they've...
Yes. That's exactly what it involved. They're inbred. She's right on the money. Okay? I'm starting to wonder what's going on over there in the UK. Maybe I got a little too much confidence in humans as a species. Maybe that might be the case. But I'm forced to scratch my head at this point, I think.
To be muscly and the jaw and all of that, but to be slightly mentally unhinged. I don't know if they've done that by...
Journalists in the United States are not talking like this. I don't see TV programs here in the U.S. where they're talking like this. What's going on? Is this just a difference in culture? Now, over there in the UK, a lot of us here in the United States, we've always looked at Britons as like our cousins. They have a fancier sounding English than us, but we both, you know, English is both our first languages. So, you know, back in the days, there were a lot of rappers from the UK. Slick Rick, Monie Love. So again, we always sort of saw them as fellow Americans. So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe, you know, I'm getting my hopes up. But I'm seeing a difference here. There's a difference here in how, you know, there are some people like this lady who making comments like this that's making me wonder, is this a slow progress towards the banning of all vicious so-called pets? Is this the early stages of it?
I don't know if they've done that by incestuous breeding or whatever, but they've done something to make them lose it,
make them more like mutated. And as they mutated more and more, their brain, nervous system became more degenerated. They're that much, it screws you up, all that inbreeding. And that's inhumane. The process required to create these things is inhumane. Another reason why they should be driven into extinction. That is a morally just thing to do, especially when you consider the health problems they deal with all throughout their life because they've been mutated and inbred like that. This is interesting. This is an interesting subject to me.
Done something to make them lose it, to lose control, and to attack indiscriminately as well. So, yeah.
It's not good either. And when one has clamped its jaws on you, there's very little that you can do.
It's absolutely... Even two men can't open the jaw.
Well, it's killed men. I mean, it's killed big...
These are heavy points this lady's making on here. These are not quite the thing that I would hear from a plant. She don't so much sound like one of those plants. And look at how he's reacting to the things that she's saying, almost as if he's saying, oh, no, don't say that. Don't say that. Now, maybe he's just a, a strange or unique guy, a character. Maybe it's nothing. But I watched this like my 6th or 7th time watching this. And I feel the same way every time. Is the UK about to be a leader, a world leader, once again? And in this time would be removing these so-called pets that are not pets. These are just flat out killers. And you just heard the point she made. She said 2 men couldn't open the jaws. But if one man can't neutralize or deal with this, and even if a man could stop an attack, people would still be sustaining damage, right? Because the dog has to attack you first before I can get it off you. So I get the dog off you, you're gushing blood. So even if men could easily and quickly and instantly neutralize these things, they're still too dangerous to have as pet. Not just men, but women too. Even if women were able to immediately stop an attack, people would still sustain damage. Because these people never prevent attacks before they happen. That never happens. I've never seen not one, and I've looked high and low. I've looked for videos and articles of somebody seeing these warning signs that they talk about all the time and actually stopped an attack before it happened.
Attack indiscriminately as well. So, yeah.
It's not good either. And when
No.
one has clamped its jaws on you, there's very little that you can
It's
do.
absolutely, even 2 men can't open the
Well,
jaw.
it's killed men. I mean,
So
it's
good.
killed big, strong men, hasn't
Yeah.
it? It's not just, little people and small people
Like us.
These are some major. And why is the United States media talking like this? They're not really talking like this. And please, if any of y'all familiar with, where they're actually talking like this, please let me know. Now look at the title of this article. Britons swap XL bullies for dog with the bite force more powerful than a lion. Now, I've went over articles like this that's pointed this out several times. But this one was published today. It's published today. And in all the other media outlets, those are all UK media outlets. Like, if you have a group of people who really want all dangerous dogs gone, and they say, okay, let's focus on the most dangerous. What's the most dangerous? XL bullies. Okay, let's ban them. Let's push to get them banned. And then immediately after they ban those, they report on the replacement. They report on what Britons are looking to replace those XL bullies with. And they identify those replacement dogs by their bite force being more powerful than a lion's. So they're immediately starting to attack that idea as well. That's the purpose it serves. You ban the XL bully, then you tell us there's another dog with the bite force more powerful than a lion's. Obviously, the next step is to ban them too. Is that where they're headed? Is that where the UK is headed? Because if so, bravo. It's almost like, at least so far, it's almost like they're slowly starting to wake up. I suspect, I consider the possibility that they know that they cannot simply ban all large dogs at once. That something like this would have to happen gradually over time. And if that were the case, then this feels like that type of process. And it's almost like they have decided, I consider it a possibility, and it's possible. They've decided that the 1991 Dangerous Dog Act was a failure, and that there's a whole lot more different dogs that actually need to be banned. But they understand that it's too much of a cultural shock to the general public if you just ban all large dogs at once. So let's just deal with them one by one. Because the XL bullies were ridiculous. Pit Bull Terriers are deadly enough. The American Pit Bull Terrier is deadly enough. They can kill grown people. You make an extra large version of it? That is absurd. Never should have happened. So after they ban it, they look into the database to see if there are any increases in purchases of breeds other than XL bullies. And like I said, they saw a 37% increase in people looking for Cane Corso dogs. And it was some other dog they were looking for too. I don't know, man. That sounds like there are some detectives on the job. Possibly. I see the possibility of an intelligent method of completely removing deadly so-called pets, and which is what needs to happen. Now, maybe I'm desperate for something positive and good to happen. Maybe I'm daydreaming a little too much. And I'm not saying that this is what that they're actually doing. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's possible. Because and for the UK to be such a pro-dog country, listen to how their media is talking and looking what they're doing. They just banned the XL Bully. What have we banned over here in the United States? They haven't banned anything in here in the United States. They're removing bans here in the United States. Already over there in the UK, they're assuming the role of leaders. The UK has assumed the role of leaders, and it makes the United States look bad, because the attacks that we hear in the statistics over there in the UK is really only comparable with the United States. United States is worse than the UK, and despite them, despite it not being quite as bad as over here in the United States. And plus, they can't have guns in the UK, right? Can't have guns. There shouldn't be any deadly dogs over there, and they know it. But the UK has assumed the role of the adult in the situation, the adult in the room, the sane person in the room. And until over here in the United States we do the same, they're showing us up. They're making us look bad. And now they're focusing on the Cane Corso. So I'm not going to get my hopes up, but I hope this is headed in that direction. That's the right direction to go. The safety of your families is worth it. Don't you think? Don't you think? And understand, I don't know these people. I speak on behalf of a lot of child victims. But I'm just being fundamental and practical. If I have a racist right in front of me, and that racist turns around and starts attacking his own kid, I'm going to say, stop. That is wrong. Don't do that. We talk about children, you know, they're blameless. Nobody should be accepting of an adult beating up no little 4-year-old, right? No matter if that's your child or not, you would be like, dude, what are you doing? Woman, what are you doing? You see somebody ball up their fist, start punching on a toddler. That's unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. And that's what y'all giving a green light to by having dogs in this society. But these dogs doing a lot worse than punching your children. They're stabbing them to death, torturing them to death. It's worth it. The removal of these things is worth it. Don't you agree? Sound like it to me. I mean, understand, there are a lot of very young people listening to my videos. What do you think's going through their head when they see all these reports that I share and they realize that they could be the next victim? I'm sharing these stories. They're sitting up here listening to stories about kids growing up with dogs and the dogs haul off and rip their face off. Now they're looking at their own dog like, uh-oh, this could be me next. That's true terrorism. And that's unacceptable. The dogs are making the case for why they should be removed, why they should be banned. And like I said, they should be teaching this in the public mainstream schools. Stay away from dogs at all costs is what we should be teaching them. You see one, stay away from it. And don't go over to anybody's house. Don't go over to anybody's house who has dogs. The future has to be dog free. In order for us to evolve, these things got to go. It's really a disgrace for us to have wasted so much of our power, our energy, our emotions and all that type of stuff. That is real power. We don't waste it on no dogs. Now, I thought, look at this. This surfaced about 4 hours ago. 3 or 4 hours ago, this story surfaced. A 4-year-old boy is in critical condition after a dog attack in Portage, Michigan. Now, what have they done up there in Michigan? Y'all know what they did. They was bragging about how they removed pit bull bans and how nobody can ever impose another pit bull ban in the future. That's what they did up there in Michigan. I know a lot of you remember that. Now look at this. So they helped to create the environment for this to happen. There's blood on their hands. Irrefutable fact. 4-year-old boy taken to hospital Sunday afternoon after being attacked by the family's dog. It's supposed to be, according to the dog lovers, his brother. Right? They're siblings. Dogs are family. And You have all these experts saying that dogs are just like a 2-year-old. Why is it that whenever these so-called siblings fight each other, why is it always the human child in the hospital with their face ripped off? Why isn't it ever the dog in the hospital after the 4-year-old slapped it around? That never happens. We all know that. And y'all want to insist that they're the same? See, this is too backwards. This is not going to work in an evolved society. When officers arrived at the home, they found a 4-year-old in the living room, semi-conscious and suffering from multiple puncture wounds throughout his body. Portage, Michigan. He was taken by ambulance to the hospital where he is listed in critical condition. Animal control took the dog. That is the end of the article. Let me continue this story, if you don't mind. The boy, the 4-year-old boy, most definitely is mutilated. Most likely missing pieces or sections of his lip, ear, nose, face, eye. He's disfigured for life. Removing the so-called pets that do stuff like this, it's worth it. Nobody can deny that. Again, this story surfaced just a few hours ago. And they're committed. You can see they're very loyal to very short articles like this. Look at how consistent this is, where YouTubers can literally make a channel just to keep up and report on attacks. Crazy stuff. A 4-year-old, the family pet. I mean, when you hear about a 4-year-old in critical condition, if they were not attacked by a dog, they probably fell off a bike or something. Probably was playing and slipped and flipped or something like that. There was no intent by a living organism to harm them. You can't compare this to dog attacks. And, I'm just dumbfounded at how people can be so committed to viewing dogs as angels when they do stuff like this on a regular basis. If the UK is headed in this direction, that will be a historic step forward. That'll go down in history, most definitely. And to be honest, I've always looked at the UK as a type of country where they don't even have large dogs. All the dog lovers got a little small, Pomeranian or poodle or something. Because the UK, they're too distinguished and intelligent to endanger their youth like that. But of course, that's not the case. Not only do they allow these bully breeds into their society, they actually say that people can't have no gun to protect themselves from these creatures. Something needs to be done. This is a national emergency. Here in the United States, there in the UK, of course, Australia, and anywhere else where there's a lot of dogs being kept as pets, and anywhere else where they have stray dogs. Like I said, it's crazy right now over there in India. Now, I don't know if I'm losing my mind here, if I'm getting old, but I thought I reported on this story already of this 10-year-old who's attacked, but this was published a few hours ago. So maybe this is one of those times where I've seen so many stories like this, I'm getting deja vu. A 10-year-old was attacked by pit bulls as she left with her flesh hanging off her body. Now, this is a 10-year-old. A 10-year-old who was a dog lover, according to her mother. Right? She was waiting for her daughter to come home when her daughter was mauled by pit bulls. Her daughter, look at this. Her daughter had gone over to visit her friend whose pit bull had just given birth to puppies. So the 10-year-old was a dog lover. So of course, so was the mother. This is an interesting story, I think. So the 10-year-old went over to her friend's house because her friend's dog was having puppies, just gave birth to puppies. Her friend had originally begged the loving mom to allow the daughter to meet the new puppies, as Kimberly, the mother, had a pit bull growing up. So the mother was happy to allow her daughter to go over to see the new puppies. You know, as you can see, especially as her daughter was a huge dog lover. Huge dog lover is in quotations. A 10-year-old. The mother even asked her daughter to take some pictures for her while she was there. This is the elite class of dog lovers right here. This is what we refer to as nuttery. Nuttery. Giving these things a status they don't deserve. Now I'm going to skip past these injuries, but they show a puncture wound on the girl's leg. But a short time before the daughter was expected to come home, the mother got a phone call. The mother called her daughter's phone. She's sitting there waiting for her daughter to come home, and then she decided to call her daughter. But her daughter's friend answered the phone. Her daughter didn't answer her own phone. Her friend answered it. And when her friend answered it, she could hear her daughter in the background crying, screaming. And her friend told her mother that she had been attacked. Kimberly said, "In that moment, my soul left my body. I dropped everything and rushed over and saw Reagan standing there in their front garden in a pool of blood. She had blood gushing out of her head, face, arms, back, and legs. There was flesh hanging out from her arm and back." Now, we've seen those injuries where your flesh is hanging out of the puncture holes that the dog inflicted on them, on the victims. She had blood gushing out of her face, arms, back, and legs, flesh hanging out of her arms and back. It was her worst nightmare. Now, the mother said that this was her worst nightmare. We need to talk about that, ma'am. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. If it was, you wouldn't allow her to be around him. How could it be your worst nightmare for your daughter to be attacked by these dogs, and you insist on allowing your daughter to go around them, even without your being there? You told your daughter to go over to this home around pit bulls and told her to take pictures and bring them back so you can look at them, but yet her being attacked by pit bulls is your worst nightmare? I don't believe that. If it was your worst nightmare, then why let her go around them? Isn't it stupid to be obsessed with a pet when it's your worst nightmare to have it attack you or somebody in your family? What kind of sense does it make then to own them? You know, if you just want to give your emotion and be affectionate to an animal, get a rabbit. Why is it so important to have a lethal pet? What's wrong with y'all? I just don't get it. It's not your worst nightmare. There was some type of sick excitement over the risk. That's the only thing I can think of. Is this the parasite at work? I admit there's some aspect of dog culture, dog nuttery that I don't understand. So is this an example of the parasite? Oh, it's my worst nightmare to have my kid attacked by a pit bull, but I desperately want to send my daughter around pit bulls. Why? Is it the parasites? Go to the pit bull with no fear. Hey, we're forced to ponder over things, to ask these questions. Don't blame me. Y'all the ones creating these crazy, weird scenarios. The adult pit bulls had attacked the girl just as she was about to leave. While she was trying to protect herself, she was dragged onto the grass before the dogs could be pulled back into their cages. And she was left with 8 huge wounds and was losing a lot of blood. Kimberly then rushed her to the hospital. Why? If this is your worst nightmare, I would expect you to tell your daughter, do not go around these creatures. I don't know. That just seems like the fitting thing that will come from a parent whose worst nightmare is for their kid to be mauled by a dog. Okay, maybe something's wrong with me. I don't know. To make matters worse for the distraught parent, she was warned at the hospital that her daughter might contract rabies. The girl was later taken to St. Mary's Medical Center. Animal control interviewed the mother about the attack while they were at the trade unit. And Kimberly begged for the dogs to be euthanized. Well, ma'am, you know what? Your daughter might run into another dog like that. Excuse me, more dogs like that. This girl was attacked by more than one dog. There are more dogs willing to do that, ma'am. So my question is, are you about to instruct your daughter to stay away from them? It sounds like the only thing that makes sense to me. Can you answer that, ma'am? Leave your answer in the description box. Are you going to instruct your daughter to avoid these things, or you're going to send her right back around them? According to you, your worst nightmare came into fruition. So is this a traumatic situation for you? I would imagine it is. What's the appropriate way to respond to something this traumatic? I would think, tell your daughter you're sorry. Sorry for conditioning her to love these things and to look at them as harmless. And that she should avoid them going forward. That's not that hard, is it? I don't see what the big deal is. The injured girl was taken to the hospital. Okay. She spent 2 weeks recovering in the hospital at one point. Despite the operation she had to go through, she developed an infection on the wound in her private area. Your 10-year-old daughter. Oh my God. Your 10-year-old daughter, being attacked in her private area is bad enough. You're telling me it developed an infection? It could be sepsis. You don't think it's worth telling your daughter to never go around these things to make sure this never happens? That's deep. Never heard anything like that happening before. I never heard anybody. I've heard of people having their private areas attacked by dogs. We just went over one just a few days ago. But for it to develop an infection, that's gut wrenching. 10-year-old. She was left scarred for life and with PTSD, finding it difficult to speak about the attack. Her mother says she has since returned to school, and her classmates wrote her letters and gave her presents. But Kimberly is fuming that the dogs were not put down. She said the only thing anyone should be upset with is irresponsible dog owners. Those dogs that attacked her were poorly kept, and more should have been done. It's not worth the risk. Police think the mother dog might have attacked on instinct, protecting her newborn puppies. She said the neighbors have since surrendered the dogs to animal control due to their aggression. And her daughter is an incredible girl who got a second chance at life. She's lucky to be alive. I've lived my worst nightmare. People need to become more responsible dog owners so that this doesn't happen to anyone else. Ma'am, I have a question. What do you mean that these dogs were poorly kept? Why would you say that? And if you knew that, why did you send your daughter over there? How could they have been poorly kept? You have a dog, a pregnant dog inside of a home. It gives birth to puppies. They feed it and give it water. How is it poorly kept? Are you assuming that they're doing something? What else could they be possibly doing? Are you saying their house is too small? If that's the case, again, why'd you send your daughter over there? Dogs were poorly kept, and so the dogs attacked your daughter because they were uncomfortable with their living arrangements? That doesn't sound logical, ma'am. That doesn't sound logical. Think about that. What do you mean poorly kept? They were over there abusing these dogs, keeping them in, I was about to say inhumane conditions, but these are not humans. So why'd you send your daughter over there? Dogs were not poorly kept. They're just dogs. Dogs attack kids. Dogs attack just to dominate. That is a part of dogs y'all have to accept. Your experts and professionals, they like to overlook it. They never bring it up. I mean never. Dogs attack just to attack. They're bloodthirsty. Every night they attack livestock and don't eat none of them. And they trespass on other people's territory to launch these attacks. This is not territory aggression. It's not food aggression. It's not anxiety or fear. These things go out and they roam around looking for living organisms to attack. That is a characteristic, a trait of dogs y'all gonna have to accept. Those dogs attacked your daughter because they just wanted to. It didn't have nothing to do with them being poorly kept. And you're saying that the dog might have attacked your daughter protecting her newborn puppies? So why did you send your daughter over to someone else's home alone inside of a house where there's a pit bull with its puppies? You went over there knowing that there was a pit bull over there with puppies. Now you're saying, what is this? Where does irresponsible parenting come into play? She said, my daughter got a second chance at life. She's lucky to be alive. I've lived my worst nightmare. People need to become more responsible dog owners. No, ma'am. People need to become more responsible parents. A responsible parent would never let their kid go over someone's home where there's a pit bull inside. It's not something a responsible parent do. See, you did something irresponsible. And that's the result. This is really the result of you being irresponsible. Look at the fact that the dog was in its own house. The law can't even come down on them like that. Letting people go over to someone's home who got dogs there, that's the last thing a parent should ever do. You should never do that. And it's really boiled down to the fact that these things have no place in society. Simple as that. It makes sense to ban creatures like this as pets. This 10-year-old girl didn't do nothing to these dogs. Nothing at all. Attacked when she was about to leave. And, it's funny how they tell us that we're bad people for advising young people to stay away from these things, to avoid having stuff like this happen to you. How many of you young people listening look forward to something like this happening to you, where your guts hanging out your body, your face hanging off? You heard how they described it. They said her flesh was hanging off her body, hanging off her face. You want to go through this again? This girl is 10 years old. If not now, she might be on the internet or something. Feel free to respond if you listen to this video. Stay away from dogs. They're lethal. And they attack just to attack. Just to establish dominance. It has nothing to do with fear. They do this. Attacking to establish dominance, they have an instinct to do that. When they form packs, that's all the dogs do in dog packs. Dominate or be submissive. That's all they do. They actually create a caste system based on who submits. If you submit to a bunch of dogs in the dog pack, then you're at the bottom of the ladder. Their whole existence is structured around bullying, attacking, just to attack, just to establish I'm the dominant one in the room. You can't justify a creature like that as a pet. I'm sorry. Now, I want to apologize. I sort of panicked earlier. But I live here in Ohio. If you live here in Ohio, do not subscribe to Buckeye Broadband. They will rip you off. They will put hidden costs and all types of stuff in there. Okay. And I'm going to be going off the grid here. I think I may have mentioned it. I'm going to be going off the grid here for about a week. And during that time, I won't be live and I won't produce any content. I'll be busy moving. And I was about to allow my internet to be shut off very early. Very early. I don't plan on moving until the end of this month. I was about to just let it get shut off now. But there was some magical charges on my account that I still don't agree with. And I had to decide, let it get shut off, or I had to actually pull out a loan. I haven't gotten a loan, I don't think, in over 20 years. So my anxiety is very high right now. And I don't need help, even though I'm poor just like everybody else. I don't need any financial help or anything like that. But I want to thank a follower for, they like immediately sent a donation. I want to thank I call him Mr. Johnson. Big shout out to Mr. Johnson. But yeah, I'm gonna be probably, I'm thinking around the first week of February or the last week of January. While I get everything moved, I cut off this service here. You know, I'm thinking to myself, if I let it just get shut off and don't pay it, then I probably won't be able to get service in my new apartment. So, yeah, I sort of broke myself, and then I had to embarrassingly pull out a loan. I do not like loans. It's a high interest loan. And but I feel like I made it through this live stream okay. So bear with me. And big shout out to everybody who was able to join me for this live stream. And I hope to see you back. Wait a minute here. Yeah. I will chop it up also with the members a little later tonight. And I hope to see you all back on the next live stream as we continue with this crusade.